my tip today is going to be on how to teach Logos which resources you prefer for various things. Typically, we're going to deal today with just three categories: your preferred Bibles, your preferred lexicons, and your preferred commentaries. Whenever you start a Logos session, for example, if you do a homepage Bible study, if I'm on the homepage and I just type in, for example, James 1:1, I'm going to study James 1:1, and I hit go. It creates what's called a homepage Bible study, at least that's what they used to call it, and it presets a number of resources for you. You'll notice that my Bible panel's opened, and it opened with a New American Standard, an English Standard, and an NIV. You'll notice it opened a passage guide to James 1:1, and there's a list of commentaries here. Starts with New International Greek, and then Pillar, and then the New American Commentary, and so on. If I add an exegetical guide to this mix, just to show you one other area, when I look at my Greek words in the word-by-word section of the exegetical guide, you'll notice that I have a list of lexicons. It starts with BDAG, then DBL, and so on. But I want to be able to control these things. I want to control what Bibles open. For example, the ESV may be fine, but I don't use the New American Standard or the New International. I'd rather have the New King James or something along those lines. So how do I do this? How do I control what actually opens with these preset ones? And how do I control these passage guides, exegetical guides, in the order of the commentaries and lexicons that Logos presents me with? Well, the answer is in prioritizing your resources. I'm going to go ahead and click the Close All icon here in the upper right-hand corner. I'm also going to highlight my cursor so that you can see it a little bit better. But when you prioritize resources, you're working inside your Logos library. Now, the library is this little book icon at the upper left-hand corner of the interface. And there's a number of ways you can do this, but I prefer to right-click on it and open it in a floating window. That allows me a little bit more room to see what's going on and to kind of navigate the window space a little bit more. I've got a little bit more room here. I also can control what it looks like here in the upper right hand corner. You've got cover view, which shows you all of the covers of your books. You've got tile view, which is probably the default that you may have opened up into. And then you also have details view. I use details view, and I'll show you why in just a second. But this is a list of all of the resources that's in my particular Logos library that I'm working with. And I want to now tell my digital librarian, which ones are more important than others. Let's start with Bibles, for example. If I go into the resource panel menu, and that's always the three dots in the upper right-hand corner of whatever panel you're in. I'm in a library panel. So if I go to the library resource panel menu and click on this, you'll notice that I have prioritized resources. And when I do that, it opens a little box on the right-hand side of my library window, and it says prefer these resources. The New American Standard was already selected there, but I want to choose a number of Bibles. Now, I could just search for them, but I can also use the hamburger menu in the upper left-hand corner, and I can look at all of my Bibles just by clicking on the type, and you'll see that I have a number of Bibles available to me. So that's one way I could do it. The other, I'm going to go ahead and close the hamburger menu to make it a little bit easier. The other thing that I can do is I can just search with shortcuts. For example, I want my order to be first the New American Standard, which is preferred right now. Then I want the ESV. So I can just type ESV in the search box, and there it is. So I'm just going to drag this over into my prefer these resources. And then I want the NKJV. So I type NKJV, it shows up, I drag it over. I now type in the Lexham English LEB. I kind of like that translation. And let's go with one more and go with the KJV just to have it. And King James Version is right there. And you'll notice that it drug in the King James with the Apocrypha. That's okay. It's a 2-volume set. But just by dragging one of them, it automatically drug the other one open. I'm just going to prioritize my Bibles for right now. And I'm going to go ahead and close this library panel. Now I'm going to go back to the home page and I'm going to redo the exact study that I did before. I'm going to type James 1:1 into the homepage Bible study and hit go. Takes just a second, but do you see what happened? Notice my Bible panel. Now it's the New American Standard, then the ESV, then the New King James. Exactly the order that I created it in it. Now, I can also look at one of these Bible panels, and if I look at the parallel resources, I'm in the New American Standard panel, but if I click on the parallel resources, notice my first 5. My first 5 are the New American Standard, the English Standard, the New King James, the LEB, and the King James Version. I told Logos to do that. And so now it's giving me those Bibles in the order that I wanted them. If I want to go back and change that order, I can go back into my library panel. I'm going to right-click on it and open it in a floating window. I'm going to go to the Resource Panel menu and hit Prioritize. I'm going to change this a little bit. I'm going to make the New King James the second one in my list, just for grins. So now it should be the New American Standard, the New King James, the ESV, the LEB, and the King James Version. While I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and prioritize some lexicons. So if I go up under the hamburger menu, I get this filter, and under type, you've got subject, you've got type, you've got tags, you've got all of these ways that you can filter your library, but the one that I want is type. And under type, I may have to click more, but I've got 20 different lexicons. And when I open the lexicons, you'll notice that I have all of these lexicons. Now, for me, the one that I know that I want first and foremost is BDAG. So I want BDAG first, so I'm going to drag it over. And then the next one that I want is called the Theological Dictionary of the New Testament. I like TDNT, so I'm going to put that over there next. I'm then going to go ahead and do, let's see, I want to do the Theological Lexicon of the New Testament. And we're going to do one more just for grins in this account. I'm going to go ahead and do the Lexum Analytical Lexicon of the Greek New Testament. So I've got BDAG, TDNT, TLNT, and then this Lexum Analytical Lexicon. I'm going to now close this Bible panel, and I'm going to go back to the home page, and I'm going to rerun this James 1:1 homepage Bible study. My Bibles are in the right order, but notice now it's New American Standard, then the New King James, then the ESV. It understood my request to make the New King James my second most important one. The other is if I open an exegetical guide and I open it to the same panel, James chapter 1, verse 1, notice what I've got with my lexicons with these Greek words. I now have BDAG, then TDNT, then TLNT, and then the Lexum Analytical, and then the others are down below it. So I'm teaching Logos how to prioritize these resources, which ones I prefer. Now, there's a couple of things that I need you to understand. One, I'm going to go ahead and go back and open my library in a floating window again, and I'm going to open up the Prioritize Resources panel. The order that you drag these resources in the prefer these resources area as you prioritize them is important. Where they are in the list is not. For example, I've been very nice and neat. I've got all my Bibles together, and then I've got my lexicons together. I can actually intermingle, and this is going to be a mess, but I could actually intermingle my lexicons in between all my Bibles. And this would still work properly, because what Logos does is it looks at this list and it says, okay, if I'm looking for Bibles, what is the order of the Bibles? If I'm looking for lexicons, what is the order of the lexicons? The problem is, for me as a user, as I get more and more elaborate with this prioritizing, it becomes harder and harder to read. So I strongly, did I say that enough? I'm going to add one more. I strongly recommend that you keep like resources together. Keep all of your Bibles together in this list. Okay, so I'm going to put all of my Bibles back together. Keep your lexicons all together in the list. Okay, keep your commentaries all together in the list. It will make a huge difference. So let's prioritize a few commentaries. I'm going to grab a commentary here. I just clicked on the type tag, and so now my list is sorted by commentary. I'm going to put Blacks in, and it doesn't matter which one I drag. I'm going to put Blacks is going to come over as I scroll up. I'm going to put Lang is going to come in. I'm going to keep scrolling. Just trying to grab any here that I'm going to go ahead and do New American Commentary. And then I'm going to do New International Greek Testament Commentary, and I'm going to put it first. So you'll notice I've just grabbed a few. It doesn't really matter, but I've got the New International Greek, then Blacks, then Lang's, then the New American Commentary. I'm going to go ahead and close my library panel. I'm going to close all of my resources. I'm going to go back to the home page, and I'm going to run that same James 1:1 automated study. And as it opens, notice my commentaries now. My commentaries are listed by New International Greek, Blacks, Lang, and New American Commentary. Okay? So I'm teaching Logos what resources I prefer and in what order I prefer them, so that my automated lists will give me the most important, or at least the ones that I feel are the most important resources first. If you prioritize your resources, you can train your digital librarian to hand you the book that you want it first. That way you don't have to look through all the lists to find them. I hope this helps. See you next time.